Firstly, how significant was it to have the result and performance against Spurs last week to lead into such a big game? It sort of left the players with a bit of a spring in their step ahead of such a big game.
Yeah, of course. I think winning games build confidence, and scoring a lot of goals is also building confidence. So of course, for us it was important, also based on the week before we were not pleased with the performance. So yeah, very happy about that, and of course that has shown in the week also. It's great mood in the group, and yeah, ready for Saturday.
The players that played at the Asian Cup are obviously back in the fold now as well. How have they been this week, sort of adapting to the big time difference that they've had before?
Of course, it's they have had intense tournament, but they definitely came in with energy. Of course, the first day was challenging for them. They have been flying a long way, but the players have missed them, and they have missed our environment. So easily they come in and stepping in the building and directly know how we are playing, what we're doing, and finding their way directly to their roles they have in this team.
They're obviously all key players in the team, but has it also, in a way, been a positive that while they've been gone, other players have really come in and stepped up and made your life really difficult this weekend, I imagine, selecting that first 11?
Yeah, definitely. The way I think it's been like that the whole season. I think we have had players out from games and injured and different reasons, but Asia Cup is one other reason. But we have a great squad. We have so many good football players, so we are not depending on just one or two players. We have so many one that can take a big role every game, and it's not always the same player. And I think that shows something about the strength in the group, that everybody feel that they have a part of what we're doing, and they can contribute to our performances. And I think that's probably also why we are where we are at the moment.
Speaking of those contributions, obviously, as much info as you'd like to give, is there a chance that those 4 Asian Cup players might be involved this weekend in some capacity?
Absolutely. All of them are available for the weekend.
That's great news. And then the rest of the squad as well that you've had, is it sort of as is, Grace Clinton still maybe on the way?
Yeah, Grace Clinton is still not really ready but slowly she's progressing, and hopefully pretty soon she's back.
Thanks, Andre. Good luck at the weekend.
Thank you.
Hi, Andre. Nice to see you.
Nice.
I just wonder, have you managed at Old Trafford before? I'm assuming not.
I've been there, but I've never been either playing or coaching there, so that will be a new experience, definitely.
Does that excite you, just as a football person generally? Playing Manchester United at Old Trafford's quite it's a big occasion.
Both yes and no. This is all the stadiums you're coming to in England is something that you almost grown up with in Sweden and watched on TV with big games and this. So of course it is a little bit special to come to all stadiums, and Old Trafford is not any different in that. It's a great stadium, a club with great history and so on. But at the same time, I'm traveling there with my team, who has great opportunities to win, even if we play on Old Trafford or whatever. So both yes and no. It's not anything that I'm thinking that much about.
Obviously, United have had a busy time recently with League Cup final, Champions League games, and it looks like obviously results recently maybe shown a little bit of fatigue in the squad. Have you been wary of that? And I suppose would the message to your players be to try and capitalise on that and get at them quickly?
We haven't talked about that. I think that everybody knows that they play more games than we do at the moment. But at the same time, they also have the possibility to play these high-intense games during the week that we don't. We train a lot, but we don't get those games like they are getting against Bayern München the other day. And of course, that's also building something for them, that they know about the speed, what's going to happen in the weekend and so on. And for us, we can't prepare the same way. So there's both positive and negative parts of not playing these games. So physically, definitely an advantage for us, but mentally and preparation, I would say that it's the same.
Just a question a little bit more widely on the women's game, because Sonia Bonpastor raised some interesting points about the WSL academy structures in England a few weeks ago, and she was talking about some of the changes that she'd like to see just to make the jump for youth teams a little bit easier in terms of getting into that first team squad. I wonder what your thoughts on the current structure in England is, and maybe some of the changes or adaptations that you'd like to see just to improve that structure.
I haven't read what she's saying in that, but I definitely, being here now for 7 or 8 months, I definitely see that can only look from our own academy that it is a big step to go from academy to being a senior player, especially in clubs like Chelsea and Man City and those who want to compete also in Europe. It is a big step. What is the best solution to that? I don't know. But there definitely has to be some way to bridge that gap. If it's how they are training, how they are being professional, and I think our club is also having ideas about it and giving the academy players also better circumstances. But the gap of between being a youth player to a senior player, no matter in the world, is the biggest gap, the biggest step that a youth player needs to take. And I think you're wrestling with these problems all over the world. So we just need to find a way in this country, and how do we do it here, what fits us best. And I need to be a little bit longer in the country before I can have an opinion about it.
She did make the suggestion that when she was in France, obviously with Lyon, that their second team or reserve team sort of played in the second division, so kids were playing against adults. So that might be something, I suppose.
Yeah, definitely could be something. The best training is sometimes also train against boys, and that is also something that I think is a very important thing to raise the level. I'm not saying you play games against boys, but there's different ways how to do it. But the gap is sometimes big, and if that is a solution, maybe.
Thanks, Andre.
Andre, you were talking there about Manchester United and the games that they've had, the schedule they've had. When on big weeks like this week in the Champions League, do you and the players sit there thinking, oh, man, we're missing out?
Yeah, we do. A lot. But that's anything we can do about at the moment. We definitely want to be there when we come into after the summer. That's one of our biggest goals this season, to be there. And of course, those who have been in these tournaments before really miss those nights, because there's something special about Champions League and playing in that. So definitely all players are aiming to be in that tournament again.
Talked about what Manchester United are building. If you had time to sort of reflect on what you've been building, because it feels as though the project that you've started is accelerating quite quickly.
Yeah, I think we have had a good squad all the time, and my job was how can I make this group of players win more than they did last year. And that is a lot of things that we have done, and one of the most important things is that we have been able to, I think, put players in positions where their quality is deciding how we are playing football. It's not a strict system, it's not a strict formation we are playing through. We are very fluent, because that's how I think we are getting the best out of our players. And I think that's what I'm mostly proud of, that we have managed that so far in a very good way.
Yeah, Mark Skinner was asked about sort of how your team lines up and how they play, and he said he's never really known Manchester City to play as direct as you do. Is that a fair observation, or do you think it's more sort of nuanced than that?
Yeah, if it's the best chance to create a scoring chance to play direct, you play that. But if the best chance is to play 10 passes before you break down the line, then we do that. So I think what the game is giving us, what the opponent is giving us, then we definitely are going to utilize that.
It's about Grace. Obviously, you're talking about she's probably not going to be available for this weekend. I'm just wondering, with another international break on the horizon, would you rather she spent that here, as opposed, so she can work on her fitness, as opposed to being called up for England?
I think that the most important thing is that she's getting fit, and she's not going to national team when not being ready. So when we feel from the performance team and us that now she's ready to train and play games for us, then of course she can definitely go to England, but she needs to be ready here first before we're sending her away.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, Anton. Any questions from Zoom? We'll go to Gethin.
Hi, Andre. I was just wondering what you'd reflect on the Spurs game. Because I thought, it was a bit of an interesting one. Obviously, the scoreline was very good, and there was a lot of goals in the first half in that period. But it always felt like the game was quite open for what was like 5-1 for most of the game. I just wondered kind of what you made of the overall flow of the game and performance.
Yeah, I want to divide it into two parts. I think first half is very dominant from our side, and we're scoring 5 goals and creating a lot of half chances based on that also. They were not aggressive in their press, and we got a lot of time on the ball. So definitely that half was more of a dominant for us. The second half is, I'm not saying that it's difficult to be in a big lead coming in, but it is a challenging because the opponent has nothing to lose, and we don't have to score more goals, even though we want to. So we end up in a little bit in between and not that decisive as we were in first half, which also open up a little bit of opportunity for them. So I agree with you partly, but definitely the game was open, but it was the same when we played them in September when we were in London and played. And it is a good team. They challenged us a lot. That was also 5 goals in that one, 5-1 I think. So it was a very similar game, but there is something that it is about scoring in your chances and taking care of them. And I think we did that in a very good way, of course.
Yeah, and just jumping on the back of what Emma said about Man U, they've had quite a lot of games, and obviously Champions League midweek as well. That was a big game for them. I just wondered, whether trying to have a fast tempo and make the game really physical, particularly maybe at the start, which is something that your team does anyway, is something that you've been looking at this week, just to maybe try and take advantage of, maybe the extra rest period that your team has had.
I think that these kind of games live their own lives because a derby in this city is always going to get in 100% energized players for both teams in the beginning of the game. So it almost doesn't matter what kind of tempo you're starting because the opponent will definitely be ready. So it's not these kind of games is not determined the first 15-20 minutes. I think that definitely the longer the game goes can be a challenge for them, but it's also how the game turns out, what happens in the game, and so on. So definitely in the beginning of the game, both teams will be 100% focused, 100% energized. They really want to get 3 points in this game. So I don't think we can use that in the beginning of the game.
Finally, we've got the Asian Cup players back now, but one of those people who had an opportunity, he was Kyoki In. Obviously, she started both games in goal. I was just wondering, whether you thought she took the opportunity well in those 2 games, and not that I'm asking you to say who's going to be in goal on Saturday, but is that decision even harder now after what she's done?
Yeah, it's much harder. She made it very difficult. I knew that before because we have spoken a lot during when she hasn't played either. She has been challenging every week, and she's still. So we have a tough decision to make, and she has really showed in these games that she's ready to play these games, and so it's a tough decision, but it's not a decision. No matter what we are choosing, it will be we will be comfortable with that, but it's not a decision for the rest of the future. And I think it's important for the keepers, like for the outfield players, that if they are not getting selected, they need to be disappointed, but then they just need to push it the next week so they have an opportunity, because that is how tight it is between our goalkeepers at the moment.